Sheriff, why'd you let Marvin Morales Ortiz out of jail?
Release.
Because the guy beside you wouldn't prosecute him, right?
You'd have to talk to him.
That's why I asked the morale question in light of your statement just a few months ago where you said it's shameful that the guy beside you is not prosecuting people.
I did.
You said
So
that?
first of all, let me address what you had said
No.
earlier.
You answered the questions we asked. You answered the questions we asked. I asked a simple question. Why did you change your website last month? And they had to release him. They had to do their job because you wouldn't prosecute. What happened on December 17th, Mr. Descano?
Well, sir, let's talk about December 16th.
No, that's the question. What happened on December 17th?
Sir,
this same guy murdered somebody. This guy murdered somebody, and I'm asking you, why did you change your website?
A suspect with a long criminal history was released after prosecutors declined to pursue charges. Then Jim Jordan put the sheriff and prosecutor on the spot and demanded to know why the prosecutor changed his website just days before the hearing.
Sheriff, why'd you let Marvin Morales Ortiz out of jail?
Because I received a court order, a judicial order from a judge ordering his release.
Because the guy beside you wouldn't prosecute him, right?
You'd have to talk to him.
So this guy, the guy beside you wouldn't prosecute the guy who's an illegal migrant, who'd been charged with 6 different crimes, who was arrested for murder in 2020, who in 2023 assaulted a police officer, and who in September of 2025 was charged with aggravated malicious wounding and brandishing a gun. And that guy's released, you can't hold him because he's not going to be prosecuted. Is that right?
I'm not sure about,
Well, that's what you told us. You sent us a letter on March 11, 2016, addressed to myself and Chairman McClintock, and you said on December 16, 2025, the Commonwealth's attorney moved to not prosecute the charges of aggravated malicious wounding and brandishing a firearm by Mr. Morales Ortiz. So you had to let him out, didn't you?
Through a court order by a judge, yes, I did.
You had to let him out.
I was ordered to release him by a judge.
On June 4th, the House Judiciary Committee followed up with Commonwealth's Attorney Steve Descano, requesting records on Morales Ortiz and other cases, including their charges, dispositions, and any immigration-related pleas.
I see you got some of your deputies behind. How's morale in your department, Sheriff? Is it good?
I didn't know I was here to talk about morale, sir, but based on
You're here to answer the questions we ask you. That's what you're here for. Yeah.
Of course I am.
Okay.
But I'm also here to talk about what I was invited here to talk about.
Well, I'll refer you to a statement you made in August. Fairfax County Sheriff Stacy Kincaid, Democrat, also told 7 News reporter Nick Minnick, it's shameful the way things have not been prosecuted. You stand by that statement?
If that's what was written, I do.
No, I'm not asking if that's what's written. I'm saying, did you say that, and do you stand by that, and is that having an impact on morale? Because most of the police departments I know and sheriffs and deputies that I know, when they get the bad guys off the street, they like to see them prosecuted so they don't come back on the street, harm the community you're supposed to protect, and make their job tougher because they got to go get them again when they commit some other crime. That's why I asked the morale question in light of your statement just a few months ago where you said it's shameful that the guy beside you is not prosecuting people.
I did.
You said that?
I did.
Okay, good. Mr. Descano, why'd you change your website?
Sir, first of all, let me address what you had said earlier.
You answered the questions we asked. You answered the questions we asked. I asked a simple question. Why did you change your website last month?
Well, sir, your statements about don't want to prosecute guys is absolutely false. And my policies so far in this hearing...
Are you saying what the sheriff wrote me is wrong?
No, what I'm saying is that the way that my policies have been
December 16th,
presented in this are outrageous.
She said the
Federal prosecutors charged Morales Ortiz in December 2025 with illegally possessing a firearm, while noting that he was already in state custody on a second-degree murder charge. The federal complaint also says the murder investigation began after Fairfax police found a deceased victim in Reston on December 17th.
Commonwealth's attorney, that's you, chose not to prosecute Mr. Morales Ortiz on December 16th, and they had to release him. They had to do their job because you wouldn't prosecute. What happened on December 17th, Mr. Descano?
Well, sir, let's talk about December 16th.
No, that's the question. What happened on December 17th?
This
same guy murdered somebody. This guy murdered somebody, and I'm asking you, why did you change your website?
Well, do you not want me to talk to you about the actual case?
I want you to answer the first question I said.
Which was about the case,
Why did you change your website?
Well, sir, because the website is not my policy. My policy, you are referring to a campaign website.
I think the voters might be interested in that. This is your campaign website where you said, our office will take immigration consequences into account when making charging and plea decisions. Immigration consequences were certainly part of the game here, part of the issue here with Mr. Morales Ortiz.
No, they weren't.
You decided
they absolutely
not to
were not. You
decided-
are assuming something that is in fact untrue, because you are misrepresenting my policies. My policies do not say that we do not prosecute people.
Well, if you're proud of your policies, why'd you change your website?
Because that's not my policy. As I told you, sir, that is a campaign statement that I made
Mr.
before
Descano,
I was
it
Commonwealth
had been up
Attorney.
for 6 years. A week after we send you a letter saying we want you to come testify, shazam, you change it.
Because I could not.
Is that coincidental?
Because I could not believe that people were so obtuse that they could not realize what the difference between a campaign statement and an actual office policy is.
So when you make campaign statements, those aren't true? You're not being honest with your voters?
That's not what I'm saying at all, sir.
Sure sounded like it. Sure sounded like it.
It's absolutely not. What I'm saying is that when you
still haven't told me why you took it. You still haven't told me
policies-
why you took it down.
Because I was hoping to come here to talk about my office policies, not be distracted by a campaign statement that was
Not be
made
distracted.
a year before I was actually Commonwealth Attorney
General.
and had any cases that were mine.
This is almost laughable. This is your policy. You said it right here. You told the voters, if you elect me, I will take into account immigration consequences when making charging and plea decisions.
This is my policy, not what you have in your hand.
Oh, okay, so what you said to the voters is not real, doesn't count.
No, sir, what I'm saying is that as an office holder,
I just
my
find it
office
interesting.
is run by my policy.
Your sheriff said you wouldn't prosecute. This guy gets released, kills someone the next day. We start asking about it. You change your website and take down the statements that say you're going to take into account immigration consequences when you decide what you are going to charge.
And it has been public the entire time I've been in office, sir.
On July 2nd, 2026, new records obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request added another major development to the controversy surrounding Fairfax County's immigration policies. The records showed that during 2025 and the first 4 months of 2026, the Fairfax County Sheriff's Office declined hundreds of ICE requests to transfer people for federal immigration processing. According to the records reported by Fox News, the Sheriff's Office declined 615 transfer requests over that 16-month period while turning over 11 people. The figures became significant because Sheriff Stacey Kincaid had testified before Congress on May 14th that her office was constrained by Virginia law and county policy when it came to holding people for federal immigration authorities. There was another important development on June 4th. The House Judiciary Committee formally followed up with Commonwealth's Attorney Stephen Descano after his May 14th testimony, saying he had been unable to answer basic questions about how his office's immigration-related prosecution policy was actually applied. The committee requested records covering cases from January 1st, 2020, forward, including the number of cases dismissed through null proska, the categories of non-citizens covered by Descano's policy, and cases in which immigration consequences were considered. The committee specifically requested information on Marvin Morales Ortiz and dozens of other defendants, with a June 18th deadline for the requested material. Separately, on May 6th, the Justice Department opened a civil rights investigation into Descano's office, examining whether its policies concerning charging, plea bargaining, and sentencing unlawfully treated defendants differently based on immigration status. These developments matter because they show that the May 14th hearing was not simply a heated political exchange that ended when the witnesses left Capitol Hill. There are now multiple lines of scrutiny. Congress is demanding records, the Justice Department is investigating Descano's policies, and newly obtained Sheriff's Office records are providing additional information about how Fairfax County handled IC requests. At the same time, those developments do not automatically prove that every rejected IC transfer or every prosecutorial decision was unlawful. The records have to be examined case by case. That distinction is important when looking at the confrontation between Jim Jordan, Sheriff Kincaid, and Descano. Jordan was trying to establish a direct connection between Fairfax County's policies and the release of defendants who later became involved in serious crimes. His strongest argument was that local officials cannot simply point to separate legal responsibilities when the systems overlap. If prosecutors decline charges, a person may be released. If a sheriff does not hold someone for IC without the required legal authority, federal immigration officials may lose the opportunity to take custody. Jordan's broader concern was that these separate decisions can produce one dangerous result even when every official insists that they are simply following their own rules. But Descano raised a legitimate counterargument. prosecutors cannot be judged solely by what happens after a defendant is released. A later crime does not automatically prove that the earlier charging decision was illegal, negligent, or motivated by immigration status. Prosecutors have to make decisions based on the evidence available at the time. The real question is whether immigration consequences were being considered within the boundaries of the law, or whether they were being used to give certain defendants more favorable treatment. That is exactly why the June 4th congressional request is so important. Rather than relying only on the Morales Ortiz case, lawmakers asked for a much broader set of records. They want to know how often Descano's office considered immigration consequences, how those considerations affected charges and plea agreements, and whether the same approach was applied consistently. If the policy was genuinely neutral and lawful, a broad review of the records should help demonstrate that. If the records show a pattern of reduced charges or favorable dispositions specifically because of immigration status, that would provide much stronger evidence for the concerns raised at the hearing. The Morales Ortiz case remains particularly important because of its timing. According to Fairfax County police reporting cited by WTOP, Morales Ortiz had been arrested in September 2025 on a firearms charge and a felony malicious assault charge. He was released from custody on December 16, 2025. The following day, police said he was arrested after a fatal shooting in Reston and charged with second-degree murder and firearms offenses. That sequence explains why Jordan repeatedly returned to the case during the hearing. From a public safety perspective, it is difficult for lawmakers and the public to ignore what happened between those two dates. At the same time, the hearing also demonstrated how easily this issue becomes politically polarized. Republicans presented Fairfax County as an example of the dangers of sanctuary policies, while Democrats argued that the hearing was being used to portray an entire jurisdiction as unsafe and to attack local officials for following established policies. The Washington Post described the hearing as two competing interpretations of the same county, with Republicans emphasizing illegal immigration and public safety, while Democrats defended Fairfax's approach and criticized the broader federal immigration strategy. The newly released ICE figures make that disagreement even more consequential. If the sheriff's office really declined 615 transfer requests while accepting only 11 over the reported period, lawmakers have a factual basis for asking how the policy operates in practice and whether federal immigration authorities are being prevented from taking custody of people they are seeking. But those numbers alone do not tell us whether every person involved was dangerous, whether every request was legally enforceable, or whether Fairfax officials had the authority to comply with every request. Those details matter. There is also a larger legal question underneath everything. Where does local discretion end and federal immigration enforcement begin? Local governments are not automatically required to perform every function requested by federal immigration authorities, and constitutional limits matter. But local prosecutors and sheriffs also have a responsibility to explain how their policies protect victims and the wider public. The challenge is finding a system in which immigration status does not result in unlawful favoritism, while defendants still receive the due process protections guaranteed by law. The Justice Department investigation could ultimately become more important than the political arguments at the hearing. If federal investigators determine that Descano's policies violate civil rights or federal law, that would provide an independent legal basis for changing those practices. If the investigation finds that the policies are lawful, that would undercut some of the strongest accusations made against the prosecutor. Either way, the investigation gives the public an opportunity to move beyond partisan claims and examine the actual policy and its implementation. And Congress's continued requests for records suggest that lawmakers are not satisfied with verbal explanations. The June 4th letter specifically sought case-level information, including whether immigration consequences were considered in individual prosecutions. That is the kind of evidence that can establish whether the controversial policy was merely a statement of prosecutorial philosophy or whether it materially changed outcomes in criminal cases. Ultimately, this hearing revealed a much larger problem than one confrontation between Jim Jordan and a Virginia prosecutor. When criminal prosecution, local detention, and federal immigration enforcement overlap, responsibility can become fragmented. Each agency can point to its own authority, while the public is left asking who is responsible for the final outcome. The answer cannot simply be political. It has to come from the law, the records, and the actual decisions made in individual cases. The latest developments show that the Fairfax controversy is still unfolding. Congress is seeking records, the Justice Department is investigating the prosecutor's policies, and newly obtained records have raised additional questions about Fairfax County's cooperation with IC. The real test now is whether those investigations produce evidence that confirms or contradicts the accusations made during the hearing. So the question for viewers is, should local prosecutors and sheriffs have the discretion to limit cooperation with federal immigration authorities, or should serious criminal cases involving undocumented defendants require mandatory cooperation with IC when public safety is at stake?